Hello, everyone, and welcome to iCritic Live. This is the podcast where we talk about entertainment, pop culture, and life in between. I'm your host, Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net, and thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your time here with me today. And, politics. You know, personally, I am fascinated by politics, but I don't like to talk about them very much because I find politics fascinating not only because they affect the world as it is, but also because there's so many moving parts to politics. It's like a little puzzle that it kind of works, but the puzzle pieces are always never quite fitting. And of course, how this affects this, and well, this will do something good, but it's going to come at the cost of this, and is that a trade-off you want to make? Things like that. But people take this stuff so personally. I mean, look, I know that people, for example, are probably rightfully upset at J.K. Rowling's stances on certain issues. And some people, it's so personal that if you admit, like, yeah, I still like Harry Potter. Whether I agree with her or not on these personal things, I still like Harry Potter. I still like the theme parks. I still like the movies. And if you say that, they will look at you like it is a personal attack on them, even though, honestly, it's not. People just like the stuff that they like. I mean, heck, for many, many years, we never had any idea what the real lives of our creators were, what was behind the inner workings of the companies that we consumed products for. I mean, who knew when you were reading Pulp Fiction by L. Ron Hubbard that deep down and in the back of the shadows, if you will, he was secretly planning to develop a cult? I mean, who would have known that? And look, I don't know how many people actually bought the Charlie Manson album. Charlie Manson did have an album. But if you bought that originally, did you have any idea that was going to lead to him leading the charge for murders of innocent people? Probably not. And, sometimes we just didn't know back then. And never mind, like, the stuff that was going on with the Beatles. Like, did people really know what the Beatles were doing when they were listening to their music, or were they just listening to the music? Nowadays, we have the internet and social media, and so everything behind the curtain is basically seen, which is why it's less and less shockful when something comes out and it's like, oh yeah, nothing like that stays hidden forever. Well, now I got to talk about Disney and their new park in Abu Dhabi, because make no mistake, the theme parks are pretty much the core business for Disney right now. People would like to think it's their movies and their television and things like that. It's not. It's the theme parks. And, well, it makes sense that Disney would want to continue to expand their theme parks. Now, you could ask, of course, the very basic question, well, how many theme parks can Disney build before they start diluting their product? Because I can guarantee you, wherever there is a Disney theme park in a country, that is less of a reason for people from that country to come to California or Florida to go to one of the original homegrown Disney theme parks that were developed by the Disney brothers, if you will. Of course, Disney probably doesn't care, because it's like, well, if they're not spending all that money to travel to California and Florida, they're just going to go locally, and heck, they might even buy more merchandise because they're not spending thousands of dollars on plane tickets and hotels and things like that. So, it makes sense that Disney would want to expand the park, and they decided to expand to Abu Dhabi, a relatively safe country that still is pretty conservative in many aspects. And while investors, of which I should mention, I am a Disney investor, I do own stock in the company, were largely happy with the announcement, because that's a whole new revenue stream, and it's gonna be successful. It's gonna make a lot of money. And I'm pretty much looking forward to their new modern day castle, which I'm pretty certain, if it's not been finalized yet, is gonna be the frozen ice castle. I mean, how do you not make the frozen ice castle in Abu Dhabi for true escapism, if you will? But it trended for several days, primarily because the LGBT community were very, very unhappy with this announcement. Now, here's the thing. It should be mentioned that for many, many years, Disney has had a very strong LGBT following, and of course, this extends to QA plus. Pretty much anyone. Disney's just loved by a lot of people, but I would say like the gay community especially seems to really love Disney. Like a lot of them are Disney adults where it's like they've kind of made their whole life about Disney. Like they go to the theme parks all the time, they see all the movies, they have the merchandise. I don't even know if a lot of Disney adults even watch DreamWorks movies. I don't know if they've seen Shrek or Puss in Boots. I knew someone who wasn't a Disney adult, but he became one because as a teenager, he just obsessed about Disney. Everything that Disney made was gold, and anything that DreamWorks or Warner Brothers made was terrible, and he got to be an adult, and he just became a lot more insufferable about it. I'm kind of glad I don't talk to him anymore, to be honest. I stopped talking to him like, 17 years ago? Like, geez. But he was one of those people. And, the LGBT community has been very good to Disney. And some would argue Disney has not been as good to them in return. They continue to cut LGBT-friendly storylines from TV shows. They have announced their first openly gay character several times, only for it to be like the most briefest of things where only my most liberal sister-in-law looks at it and says, "Oh, that is very obviously a gay person." And it's like, there's a lot of wiggle room there. Like, if you don't want to believe that, I can just as easily see that not happening. Except for, like, Strange World. Strange World was, like, a rare exception where the main character was out and out gay. And it didn't do very well, so we're not going to see that anytime soon again. But Disney is still not going to ever out Elsa for that reason. Heck, I don't even know if Elsa's gay, to be honest. I know people want her to be gay. I'm not certain she is, and I think just because Disney doesn't want to offend anyone and hurt their most lucrative cash cow, they will never out her as gay or straight. I think she's just pretty much going to be asexual the whole time. So Disney has not acknowledged their gay fans very much, if we're being perfectly frank. But gay fans maybe arguably spend a lot more money at Disney than anyone else. I know, and there might be other reasons, more practical reasons, like a lot of LGBT Disney adults don't have kids. Not all of them, but I think more of them don't have kids than not, so therefore they have more money to spend at Disneyland. More conservative straight couples with families really have to, budget to go to Disney and stuff like that. So there might be reasons for that. But the gay community has been good to Disney. And they want Disney to be good to them. And I sort of understand it. You like to think that when you are giving a company a lot of money, when you are making their brand your identity, that you are so into their culture, you want them to reflect you. But here's the reality, and I've said this many, many times. Disney is a company. They are not there for your feelings. They are there to make money. This is why I've had to explain this to people who watch my Walt Disney Treasures videos and say, "Aren't you mad that they never continued them?" And my opinion is like, I'm glad we got it for as long as we did, because those things did not make money. That was a total vanity project for Roy Disney, and because he's Roy Disney, he gets it. He gets what he wants. He's the nephew of Walt. But I was under no illusion that the Walt Disney Treasure series I don't know if they lost money because they didn't seem to put a lot of money in restoring the shorts, but they did not make a lot of money. And the fact that in the last round, which were the Zorro sets, I believe, they were only making like 36,000 copies of each season. It's like, I knew that the time was up. And when Disney got out of the physical media game and they moved it to Sony, I mean, what I think that was kind of a mistake, but it also acknowledged, like, look, physical media sales are down. You can't deny it. So they will partner with someone to release more discs because they're partnering with someone who finds value in a niche product. But Disney's not really interested in niche products. They're interested in big bucks. That's why we're even seeing with animated features, like they're making sequels to their animated features, because why create new characters that may or may not land when you can create a sequel that will be a guaranteed moneymaker? I mean, look, I love Treasure Planet. I love Morphin Treasure Planet. I actually even kind of like Brother Bear, but you can't deny those movies did not make a lot of money at the time. And while they're looked at a little bit more fondly now, they were not looked upon fondly at the time. And you know what I'm saying here? But anyway, Disney, the bottom line is this: Disney wants to make money. So it makes sense that Abu Dhabi would be a destination for Disney. I don't believe they really have any theme parks. This would be a one-of-a-kind thing for them. There's very rich people who live in Abu Dhabi. Like, it's a very rich place to go. And it would not only be a good boon for Abu Dhabi in terms of tourists, but I can guarantee you pretty much any American who has to go to Abu Dhabi for one reason or another, usually it's probably going to be for business reasons, they're going to stop at Disney Abu Dhabi or whatever they call it. But the LGBT community wanted to point something out, and they felt very depressed by this. A lot of gay people can't go to Abu Dhabi. It is illegal to be gay there. It is illegal to be trans there. Like, some of the TikTokers at Disney that you see that wear some of these outlandish costumes and flamboyant personalities and things like that. And that's not a judgment. I'm just saying that's what it is. They could not do that in Abu Dhabi. They would probably have to put on jeans and a regular t-shirt. Dare I say it, they might even have to hide who they are if they were to go to Abu Dhabi, especially for the Disney park. And yeah, I can understand why that's a little frustrating. And so they feel personally betrayed by Disney that they would open this theme park in a place that is so openly hostile towards them, because Disney is kind of their identity. There's one guy on X who I follow. He's been going to Disneyland pretty much every single day, with the exception of like a week here where there was like something really important, but he's been going every single day. Got to meet Bob Iger, got to see Lin-Manuel Miranda, riding Tianu's Bayou Adventure some 400 times or something. Look, personally, I think that's a waste of time. But I guess you do you. I'm busy having sex with my wife. Sorry, I had to say it. Yeah, he was like, I feel very betrayed by Disney right now because I'm gonna assume he's gay. He sounds gay in his videos. And he probably won't be able to go to Disney Abu Dhabi. And he feels like this is a betrayal because Disney's like kind of part of my identity. It kind of seems like its entire identity. And he won't be able to go. And my response to these people is, okay, I understand it's disappointing that you will probably not be able to go to this Disney park. And I share that disappointment because, you know, I can't really go to, not Hong Kong, Shanghai Disney, because it's in China. And here's the thing. While China is certainly open to people, they're not open to everyone. And look, it's time for me, you know, I don't like to bring up my religious beliefs into this, but I am a Christian. And I've also been a little critical of the Chinese government. And so I could not safely go to China because of those beliefs, unless I found a way to hide them really well. And Of course, now with the internet and everything and the way China tracks things, they would find out my personal beliefs. I would probably be considered like a spy or something in Shanghai. So I will probably never be able to go to that park. And that makes me sad. I would like to go to that park. But I acknowledge it's probably just not on the docket, at least for the near future. So I sympathize, but at the same time, am I mad at Disney for making a park in Shanghai? No, not especially, because it makes sense. China has a lot of people there. There's also a fair amount of tourists there, despite how authoritarian and controlling, I should say, that the country is. But, there's a lot of tourists that go there. So there was tons of money for Disney to make in China. And that's why they did it. That's also why they put a theme park in Hong Kong. Because, lots of people in Hong Kong. That's why they put a theme park in France. And I don't know if there's quite the same level of people in Abu Dhabi, but it makes sense why they put it there. There's not a lot of theme parks that I can see, and most of the people there are rich, so they could pay the big prices that it would cost to enter that theme park. Now, the attendance is going to be interesting to watch for that reason, because Abu Dhabi, there's some controversy about, who has the money and who doesn't have the money. Is this really going to get the foot traffic it needs? I guess we're going to find out, but I'm not surprised that this is happening, because the bottom line is Disney believes there's money to be made there. And keep in mind, Disney is not exactly reciprocating the LGBT community's gratitude, because I've already mentioned the movies. Like, they make a big deal about, like, oh, Gaston in the live action Beauty and the Beast is gay. There's an explicitly gay scene in there. You watch the scene and it's like he locks hands with a man during a dance scene, and is that a gay scene, or did he get thrust into that situation? I don't know. It's 2 seconds, so can't really tell. But they don't do that in their movies because they don't want to lose money from conservatives in international markets. Heck, when you think about their purchase of Fox, a $70+ billion acquisition, where did most of that money go? It went into the pockets of Rupert Murdoch. What's Rupert Murdoch doing with that money? He's building Fox News into the biggest news company on the planet, rivaled only by CNN. This is definitely a right-leaning guy who, ironically, he personally hates Trump, but he's gonna put the Trump stuff on his channel because that's what his viewers want. He's making money off of the very values that LGBT people find abhorrent. And Bob Iger, aka Disney, gave him over $70 billion to do it. This is not a company that cares for you. Everything is transactional. Disney likes you when you give them the money. That's why every Pride Month you will see a bunch of Pride-related merchandise at Disney stores and the Disney theme parks and things like that. And look, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. If you want to buy it because you like the shirts or the keychains or whatever, go ahead and buy it. It's your money. But Disney does not consider that to be a sign of affection that can be reciprocated. They see that as a transaction. You are buying something from them. You're giving them money for a product they're making, and they appreciate it, but that does not mean they are going to back your feelings, or that they're even going to take your feelings into consideration when they make business decisions. Do you think Disney put strings on the $70+ billion takeover of Fox? Like, we'll give you this money so long as you don't put it towards these causes? No. Here's the money. Give us Avatar and the X-Men and that huge library of stuff that we can put on Hulu and go away. When it comes to the Abu Dhabi announcement, a lot of gay Disney fans won't be able to visit Disney Abu Dhabi. Disney's like, well, we have other parks that you can visit. And that's going to be their response. They're not going to take into consideration whether you feel that Disney is giving money to a country that is actively harming your community. They just don't care. And by the way, Amazon doesn't care either. Apple doesn't care either. None of these companies matter. Even if the CEO of said company personally cares, the shareholders by and large don't. The shareholders are in this to make money. And while you do have things like activist shareholders who buy a bunch of stock to try to socially get the company on good grounds, most shareholders will vote for the things that's going to make money because they want the stock price to go up. Because when the stock price goes up, they can sell it and make money. Trust me, I sell stocks all the time. So, I guess, where am I going with this? Where am I going with this? It's not like anything I can say is going to convince you to not be disappointed. Because again, I understand, as someone who wants to go to all the Disney theme parks before he dies, Shanghai Disney stands out. I probably will never get to go to that one because the risk of going to the country that houses it is too great for me to consider going to that park. I'll go to Tokyo Disney. I'm very welcome in Tokyo, especially the Japanese girls. Japanese girls love me. I hold the door open for people. So, I'm very welcome in Japan. And I will go to that Disney theme park. And I don't know if I'll be able to go to the Abu Dhabi one either, to be honest. I'd have to look to see if it would even be safe. I'd have to see if I could afford to go there. But what Disney cares about is there's a market there that's not tapped into. They're going to tap into it. Hopefully they will make a lot of money from their point of view. And so what if the country is, bad for the LGBT community? Disney already has parks where they can get your money. They already have parks where the LGBT community can spend. And if the LGBT community feels personally slighted by Disney, Disney does not care. They do not care. And this is, by the way, one of the problems, and a bigger issue here I guess I want to tack on, is that this is why you don't make a product your identity. Movies are not an identity for me. I am a writer. I am a person who sells stuff on eBay. I'm an entrepreneur. In some circles, I'm an app-trepreneur, if you will. But eBay is not my identity. YouTube is not my identity. Apple Podcasts is not my identity. And by the way, I think your life is a whole lot more interesting when you even spread the love around. Because look, Disney has made some great movies, but if you were making a top 10 animated films of all time list, many, many, many Disney films would be beat out by The Iron Giant and My Neighbor Totoro. So just throwing that out there. So to those who are disappointed that Disney is opening a theme park in a largely anti-LGBT territory, I don't know what to tell you other than you're just going to have to get over it. You're just going to have to get over it because Disney has been spending money with anti-LGBT people for a very long time, and they're not going to stop. They're going to go where the money is. And if the money is in Abu Dhabi, if the money is in China, heck, if there was money in North Korea, which I doubt there is because they're not a very rich nation, but if there was money in North Korea, they would totally open a theme park there. And by the way, you can probably write this down. I'm not going to say it's going to happen in the next couple of years, but I would say within 5 to 10 years, depending on how this all shakes out, don't be surprised if Moscow gets a Disneyland. If somewhere in Russia, a Disneyland Russia is opened. Don't be surprised if that happens, because there's a huge country where there's a lot of money to be made. I don't think it's going to happen now, because right now relations between the U.S. and Russia are not very good. But let's say they ever improve. Let's say Vladimir Putin's successor ends up being a little bit more friendly towards the rest, I could see Disney like targeting Russia because it's like, country with 8 time zones? Yeah, that seems like a great place to open a theme park. So those are my thoughts on Disney Abu Dhabi. But hey, what about your thoughts? Where do you stand on this? And do you agree or disagree with anything I am saying? You know, we do like to open up the conversation, especially for sensitive topics like this one. Now, not all the podcast platforms have comments, but if you are listening to this on one that does, please feel free to share your thoughts on any of this. And hey, if this is your first time here and you happen to like what you hear, why don't we make it official? Why don't you officially subscribe to the iCritic Live podcast? We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, and all of the podcasting platforms of your choice. And as always, I'll see you at the movies. Take care, everyone. Hey, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Just a few more things. First of all, the names that you see on the screen, these are our Patreon and YouTube member supporters. And I thank each and every one of them. Their support helps me make exclusive videos for Patreon and YouTube members, as well as keep the channel running. And of course, is just a huge kindness to me. Also, don't forget to check out the iCritic Live podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, Deezer, whatever podcasting service you listen to. It is there. We definitely want to see you there. And hey, there's also other videos that you can check out. So, check out these other channels, these other videos, especially that one. I think that's a really good one.